Prosper log, show date 140719. It's a sad moment right now. I have to begin this log entry with a moment of silence for the victims of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 that was shot down over the Ukraine airspace. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to pause and reflect for a moment and offer some thoughts to the survivors of the victims. All right. Now that we have the sad part of the show out of the way, let us get started with the good part of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, this log entry of Prosper is brought to you by Wally's Aluminum Shaping Process, run by my friend Wally Fortier, whom unfortunately I have yet to meet in person. Wally lives across the street from my friend Josh Baker in Yeehaw, Texas. Wally can make you anything. He can make a Federation emblem. He can make Klingons, Romulans. He can make Borg, Cardassian. I know some of y'all out there are football fans. He can make football team logos, and he can even make a Patriots logo if you wanted to. Why would you want to torture him by asking him to make such filth? But anyway, today's log entry is brought to you by Wally's Aluminum Shaping Process. You can find him on Facebook at www.facebook.com/WASPA. WASPAA. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like celebrating Germany winning the World Cup. How about y'all? So with that, oh, this is a good one. Hofbräu München is what I'm going to be drinking today out of Das Boot. This beer is, I had it earlier. This beer is 7.2 ABV. Let's let the theme run out. Theme song. The theme, it has to be short, sweet, to the point, and evoke thoughts of something. I decided to go with the song Jumping the Ravine from the Star Trek Generations soundtrack. Something I borrowed from Beer Song of the Day. You got the proper beer opening apparatus with the proper technique. Not much of a pop. 45-degree angle right into the beer consumption apparatus. All right. Bottoms up. Ooh, that's a good German blend. All right. Let's get started with the birthdays this week. We only have two. The first one comes from the 16th, Renee Fiore Links. She is the admin of the Facebook group Stay Classy Chivers. Man, that is a lovely group. That's a lovely, awesome group that you have going on there. Keep up all the good work. And keep it classy. Keep calm. Chive on. And the final birthday from the next day on the 17th, Armando Galvan. Now, this is a guy that I knew in Germany, which I've obviously been there. The get-up, the scarf, the shirt's even from Berlin, the hat. My friend Armando and I went through a 5-week class together where we learned to be more professional in our current jobs. So, Armando, I hope you're doing all right. To you and to Renee, I drink. All right. That was quick and easy for the birthdays. Let's move on to some additional greetings in this here log entry, starting with mine and Armando's mutual friend, Tom Knuckles, who is also with us in Germany. How you doing, my friend? Hope life's treating you well. Congratulations on your recent marriage, by the way. I'll give some love to your lovely wife, Amanda. I know you guys are pretty big fans of The Next Generation. But hey, Prosper has a place for all Star Trek fans, even if you like the new JJ Universe crap. I know. He's only batting about 5,000, but hey, you win some, you lose some. But Tom, my friend, here's to you. All right, next up, I already mentioned Wally earlier, but I want to go ahead and give some love to his wife, Nikki Fortier. How you doing? It was nice meeting you when I was in Texas back in November. Sorry I didn't get a chance to meet you, Wally, but hey, I'm hoping to make up for that one of these days. Nikki, cheers to you. All right. This past week, we also, This past week, I had a friend of mine get some good news that she is receiving a job promotion. Sharon Seskowski. How are you doing, ma'am? Congratulations on your recent job promotion. Prosper salute to you for that. I'm still waiting to get my new Hard Rock Cologne glass. I know you're doing the best you can. You were in Germany, but now you're in South Carolina. But like I said, you're doing the best you can. Don't forget about me. I haven't forgot about you. Cheers to you. All right. Next on the list. My friend Kara McLaren. Now, she recently moved to South Carolina from Indiana. And I still can't believe you guys did that. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. Your husband Eric took a different job, or he got transferred within his company. And well, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But my friend Kara was recently at a wax museum where she had the opportunity to pose with some lookalikes from the original Star Trek series. So Kara, bottoms up. All right, next up, we got Michelle Eccleston Loomis. How you doing? I have yet to meet Michelle, but hopefully one day it'll be in the cards. Now, for some reason, Michelle likes the New England Patriots. Hang on. Okay, all right, I'm better. Oh, sorry. There is one saving grace from her though. She's an Eli Manning fan. Hey. Like I said earlier, you win some, you lose some. Michelle, it's good talking to you on the trash talk posts that Josh posts up during football season. Michelle, prosper salute to you, even though you're a Patriots fan. And I'll drink. I mentioned him a couple times already. Josh Baker, you Patriots loving schmuck. I don't have anything for you that's appropriate for children, nor that ties into the Star Trek universe. But, hey, you know what? Not even Scotty can totally fix stupid. Just busting your chops. But no, Josh is the inspiration for this show, him and his Beer and Song of the Day show. Wander on over to www.facebook.com/Beer and Song of the Day. All one word, all spelled out. If you can't spell Beer and Song of the Day, you don't need to be on Facebook. Excuse me. Josh, I drink to you, and as always, a prosper salute. Last but not least, another Star Trek fan. I actually met her, well, it's Josh's better half, Fara Baker. I actually met her when I was in Texas for about 6 days or so. Dad took me on a little vacation, and we stayed at their house. Fara, your cooking, oh my God. I hope Robin gets a chance to have some of your cooking sometime. Those chicken enchiladas, oh man, it's to die for. Ooh, I tell you what, I'm going to have to come back just for some chicken. But Farrah, prosper salute to you. And I shall drink. All right. Hey, we had a couple Star Trek birthdays this week. Back on the 13th, Captain Picard himself, one Sir Patrick Stewart, turned 74. And actually today marks the birthday of 38-year-old Benedict Cumberbatch, who played Khan in the recent turd from J.J. Abrams. Oh, I'm sorry. Who played Khan in Star Trek Into Darkness. Happy birthday to you two. And for your parts, thank you for making something we love a reality. Unless you're J.J. Abrams. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm hating on J.J. Abrams. J.J., as some of you may or may not know, directed 2 Star Trek films and then decided to go onto the Star Wars universe, which I suspect he is going to turn into another floating turd. JJ, you killed Star Trek, and I don't have something to give you. I don't have something to give you that is child appropriate. So, kids, turn around for a second. Okay, you can turn back around now. Alright. Now, it's only fitting that this week's episode I talk about is Charlie X, considering on this day in 1966, it was either this day or yesterday, I'll have to double check that, but what was the last day of filming for that episode. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the behind-the-scenes stuff for Charlie X. Gene Roddenberry had written a one-sentence synopsis of this episode on the first page of his original series outline for Star Trek under the title, The Day Charlie Became God. Whew. The page is reproduced in the Herbert F. Solow, Robert H. Justman volume, Inside Star Trek, The Real Story. Writer Dorothy Fontana also confirmed that the episode was based on that story idea. Fontana developed the story and wrote the teleplay, but Roddenberry received story credit. Man, Gene, I love you, but at the same time, why you gotta go taking a lot of credit? You know? I will say one thing about Gene Roddenberry. He was a visionary. I mean, look at some of the tech they used on Star Trek, and look at what we have now. That's all I'm going to say. I'm getting off topic. I'm sorry. I'll go back to what I was saying. The episode was originally scheduled to air further into the season, as all action took place aboard the Enterprise. It was basically a teenage melodrama set in the space age, both which NBC disliked. However, However, as it required no new outer space special effects shots, all the Enterprise shots are recycled from the two pilots. Its post-production took less time than other episodes, and it was chosen to be the second episode to air out of necessity, as other episodes were not ready for the deadline. The Antares was originally to be shown on screen. However, when the early air date was commissioned, this was eliminated. The opening credits of this episode are the same as those used in The Man Trap, which included a created by Gene Roddenberry credit. The credits at the close of the episode only list Roddenberry as producer. Also, the credits for William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy are missing the starring and also starring designations. This episode followed The Man Trap in air date order. The main titles were standardized for syndication. However, the DVD prints restore the titles to their original configuration. You gotta love something. You gotta love something that stays true. Sorry. During the first season episode, cinematographer Jerry Finnerman was encouraged to maximize placement of colored background lighting to add exotic warmth to the gray walls of the Enterprise set. This was a major promotional point for NBC, as Star Trek was a selling point for color televisions. As pressure to complete episodes grew, this touch gradually faded from the series. NBC was owned at the time by RCA, a major manufacturer of color television sets. This episode was directed by Lawrence Dobkin, who later guest starred as Klingon Ambassador Kel in the Next Generation episode, The Mind's Eye. That was a unique episode in itself. Hey, speaking of Mind's Eyes, look into mine. Ha ha ha! Deep Space Nine writer-producer Ira Steven Behr says that this is the episode that won him over. Not bad. Only took the second aired episode, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Nobody's perfect. This was one of only 3 episodes of the first season that didn't show Vina in the last closing still. The other 2 episodes were What Are Little Girls Made Of and Dagger of the Mind. I don't remember seeing that. Scotty and Sulu, James Doohan and George Takei, respectively, do not appear in this episode, although 2 words of Takei's dialogue from The Man Trap are dubbed in when Kirk calls the bridge from the gymnasium. You gotta love how they recycle stuff. I mean, if it works, it works. Here's something I'll bet you didn't know. The galley chef was voiced by Gene Roddenberry in his only acting role in Star Trek. Hey, you gotta love it. I give that a prosperous salute. In her autobiography, Grace Lee Whitney mentions that Robert Walker, who was a method actor, completely avoided the cast on the set, trying to stay alone in character. He explained to us when he arrived to the set that he wanted to remain alien and apart from us, and it worked. You could see it in his performance, a subtle yet persistent air of estrangement from the Enterprise crew, and indeed from the rest of humanity. His careful effort to stay in character added a convincing dimension to his performance. Furthermore, she adds, it's impossible to imagine anyone else in the role. He captured the perfect balance, projecting vulnerability, innocence, and horrifying menace all at the same time. A lesser actor could not have handled the range and depth of the character. I'm going to veer off a little bit. Another good example of trying to imagine other actors in a prolific role. Look at Back to the Future. I can't see that series being a success with anybody else other than the people that were in it. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Back on track. Fontana also praised Walker's performance. He was excellent as Charlie, and he was quite a young man. He was in his 20s, but playing a teenager, he looked young enough to pull it off. And he did. He really did. Alan Asherman, in the Star Trek Compendium, also mentions that Walker turns in a powerful and fascinating performance. Indeed, he did. Go back and watch the episode Charlie X. Go back and watch it. You'll see what I'm saying here. I just got done watching it before I went through the notes, and here I am reading this stuff, and oh my goodness, he did turn in performance. He did turn in a good one. I'm telling you. This is the first of 6 original series episodes that takes place entirely aboard the Enterprise. The others are The Changeling, Journey to Babel, Elan of Troyes, Is There in Truth No Beauty, and Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. The Doomsday, The Ultimate Computer, The Immunity Syndrome, and The Tholian Web were also filmed using only the Enterprise sets, including that of the shuttlecraft interior. But some of the action in these episodes took place on other Constitution-class starships. By any reasonable definition, each of these entries qualifies as a bottle show. The grates and the floors of the corridors disappeared in later episodes. In one scene, Charlie takes great delight in watching a technician lower some tubing into one of these floor grates. Who'd have ever thought somebody could get jollies just by watching that? In the scene in Rand's quarters, when Charlie fights flings Kirk and Spock against the wall has a hole punched in it. On an earlier take, Leonard Nimoy had struck the wall too forcefully. This alternate take can be seen at the end of the episode's preview. This is the first time we see the brig in the original series, although the electrically charged bars that emerge from either side of the doorway will be removed and replaced with lights hereafter. During Season 2, it was given a permanent location in the hallway leading to the engineering set, which is near this set across the hallway. This same spot is used as the guest quarters in The Conscience of the King and as part of engineering in The Alternative Factor. Finally, it becomes the medical lab in Operation Annihilate. When Kirk and Charlie have their final confrontation, the camera moves to a rare floor-level view of the bridge. This close-up shows that the set is carpeted. This was probably done as a noise absorber, given the propensity of the set to pick up noises like plumbing and squeaking floors. The material itself is ozite, a portion of which was sold at the Profiles in History Star Trek auction in June 2002. Talking about plumbing, I didn't know the Enterprise had a bathroom. Imagine that. Every time you see or hear something about the Enterprise, nothing mentioned about the bathroom. It's not until Star Trek Enterprise Deep Space Nine mentions waste extraction. The ship's gymnasium makes its first and only appearance in the series. It was originally intended to be seen in more episodes, as some of the shots showing acrobatics and gymnastics were filmed as intended stock footage for reuse later. The gymnasium was a redress of the engineering set. The room where the gymnasts are tumbling is the redecorated briefing room. I didn't know that. The bench on which Sam was sitting when he was zapped would later turn up in other episodes. In Court Martial, it held the wrench that Ben Finney would snatch in his attempt to club Kirk. And this side of Paradise, it was topped by a metal tray that Spock grabs during his fight with Kirk in the transporter room. Kirk and Spock fighting? That's something you'd never think would happen. This is the only episode shot after the pilots to have no exterior views of the Enterprise using the updated series model. All of the shots are footage from the cage and where no man has gone before. Imagine that. Talk about recycling. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. A large number of visual effects had to be nixed due to time constraints when the episode was moved ahead in airing schedule to be broadcast in September. Originally, it was scheduled to air in November, hence the Thanksgiving reference. These included the Antares, which was called to appear on screen in the script but ended up unseen. The remastered version actually has a version of the Antares shown on screen in the teaser of the episode. Publicity stills of Grace Lee Whitney were used on the playing cards Charlie modifies. Those are some good pictures, too. After Charlie transforms Tina Lawton into an iguana, the noise the reptile makes was that of the sound made by Sylvia and Korob when they were returned to their true forms at the end of Cat's Paw. Whew, that's another freaky episode. More to come on that later. Spock's scanners in this episode make the same sound the Metron transmission does in Arena. Like Trelane, Apollo, and the Gorgon, Charlie makes his exit with fading repetition of his final words. The music accompanying Charlie's disappearance at the end of this episode, highlighted by a mournful bassoon dirge, would be reused effectively in Space Seed as the landing party beams onto the Botany Bay, in Patterns of Force for the death of John Gill, in the Tholian Web as Chekhov witnesses the dead engineering crew on the Defiant, as Kirk wanders the empty corridors of the faux Enterprise early in the Mark of Gideon, and in the Ultimate Computer during Daystром's final conversation with his M5 computer. Charlie and the crew of the Antares are wearing old turtleneck uniforms left over from the two pilots. Also, when Charlie is causing panic on the corridors, crewmen can be seen wearing the new series shirts with old pilot version trousers and boots. Hey, it's like I keep saying, it's all about recycling. For most of the episode, Charlie wears a gold wraparound jacket, which appears to be an unused early version of Kirk's green tunic made for the enemy within. It is apparently too big for him. When he enters the turbo elevator with Charlie en route to the bridge to hear the Antares distress message, Kirk is wearing a standard gold uniform top, but when he arrives on the bridge, he is wearing his green wraparound variant. Producers back in the day didn't know how to keep their crap straight. Hey, that happens. It's just one of those neat trivia things that comes up at conventions, most likely. After this episode, William Shatner only wore tights once more in Errand of Mercy. He later poked fun at his costume in this episode when clips of it were shown as part of the History Channel show How William Shatner Changed the World. Yeah, William Shatner changed the world. He taught us how to act while constipated. Oh, man. I love you, Shat, but sorry. Your acting style leaves... Yeah, I'm not going to touch it. Hey, I'm not paid to act. You get paid to do that stuff, not me, so I'm not going to tell you how to do it. According to Kirk's line, on Earth today it's Thanksgiving. The beginning of this episode takes place on 22 November 2266, assuming it meant the American Thanksgiving. That's also assuming that American Thanksgiving is still celebrated. Still not firmly set in his characterization in this early episode, Spock shows both irritation and amusement as Uhura makes fun of him. It seems that he has learned how to express irritation. Ah, yes, one of your Earth emotions. Fairly quickly since the events of Where No Man Has Gone Before. The United Earth Space Probe Agency, or USPA, is referenced for the first time in this episode. It would be mentioned again in episode Tomorrow is Yesterday. Years later, Star Trek Enterprise would reference USPA in several episodes, including Demons. More on Enterprise later. The line once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary, spoken by Spock while under Charlie's influence, is the first line of the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Spock is also forced to quote some lines from The Tiger, that's Tyger, by William Blake when he shouts that there is a tiger, tiger burning bright in the forests of the night. The song that Uhura sings to Spock and then Charlie may have been taken from an old Scottish folk song penned by Robert Burns called Charlie, He's My Darling. The chorus in that song is almost identical to what Uhura sings. In the captain's log in the episode teaser, Kirk describes the Antares as a cargo vessel. However, when Captain Ramart declines Kirk's offer to supplies, Kirk refers to the Antares as a transport ship. This must be a space first, a transport ship that doesn't need anything. Later, in his log at the beginning of Act 2, immediately following its destruction, Kirk describes the Antares as a science probe vessel, and later, in a conversation with Spock over chess, as a survey ship. Will you please figure out what the Antares is? Come on! The first draft script featured Uhura as a trained mimic who amused crew members by parodying her fellow officers in the recreation room. It was later turned into her performing a song to fit Nichelle Nichols' musical talents. Yes, folks, Nichelle Nichols is actually a singer. That's how she got her start before Star Trek. The second draft of this episode's script was completed 27 June 1966, with the final draft coming in on 5 July. The episode itself was filmed in mid-July. Like I said, either yesterday or today, back in 1966, was the last day of filming. In the final draft, the card trick Charlie plays with Janice, which reveals her photograph on the cards, is not specified. The script simply states that Charlie performs a variety of card tricks which amaze Janice and the onlookers. Who'd have known Charlie was a trickster like that? But hey, when you're a teenager with godlike powers, you can do whatever the heck you want. The script calls for the Antares to be seen dwarfed by the Enterprise. A ship dwarfed by the Enterprise? No! A strange bit of dialogue present in the teleplay was cut from the episode. When discussing the possible existence of Thasians and Kirk's possible father figure behavior to Charlie, Spock satirically asked McCoy, "Shall I schedule you to give him voodoo and superstition lessons, Doctor?" McCoy replies, "You can if he provides his own chicken's teeth and penguin feathers." And Spock tells him, "I'll see to it, Doctor." Man, why would they cut something humorous like that? Writer Dorothy Fontana recalled that the filmed episode was basically the same as her screenplay. There were a few line changes, not much. The images of how Charlie affect people, no face so a woman couldn't talk, things like that, those were all there. I noticed there really wasn't that much that was changed. It was pretty much the way I wrote it. Well, hey, Gene Roddenberry left it alone for the most part. Yeah, he added a couple things, but it all worked out. All right, well, folks, thank you for sitting tight with me. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you'll tune in for the next episode. But hey, I got to get going. I got duties to attend to. It's time for me to get on out of here. So I'll talk to you all later. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. If you do, name it after me. Don't drink and drive. Who knows? You might spill your drink, but most importantly, you might kill yourself, or even worse, somebody else. Drinking and driving is dumber than being a Cowboys fan, and what's worse than that is rooting for little whiners like Tom. Giselle won't let me go to the Pro Bowl. Brady, men slapping women, animal abuse, racism, fake friends, people that welch on bets, or anybody that is a member of, a supporter of, or defends the Westboro Baptist Church. Things like that are stupid, and I ain't got time for it. Let me slam this beer. So everybody take care. Have a good night and day. Live long and prosper.